Hey everybody, it's Becky. It's Thursday evening, just hanging out at home. I mentioned the other day that for the past 2 weeks I've been on jury duty. It's been a really interesting experience. I was assigned to a civil trial, so it was about money. And in summary of the case, it was U.S. Air bringing FedEx to court because a FedEx dolly had rolled into a U.S. airplane and caused some damage, and therefore they couldn't use the plane, and that cost them more money. We heard all kinds of stuff about mechanics of dollies and how to properly brake them so that they don't roll into planes, and also about weather that might have blown a dolly into a plane. And ultimately we decided that that FedEx was negligent, that they failed to properly secure their equipment, and therefore owed U.S. Air some money for damages, although we did cut down the amount that U.S. Air was asking by about half. So that's the experience that I've had over the past 2 weeks. Although today I want to tell you a story that specifically happened today within the trial. So we were a jury of 8 since it was a civil trial. And it just happens that the makeup of this jury was 7 women and 1 man, which was kind of like a running joke throughout the trial, you know, like, oh, that lucky guy gets to hang out with all these ladies and all this stuff. But this morning, since it was the last day of the trial, we started to think about which one of us was going to be the foreperson, that is, the juror who would lead the deliberation process and ultimately deliver the verdict when we had made our decision. So this morning we were sitting around waiting for the people to come get us to go into the courtroom to hear the closing arguments, and one of the other ladies jokingly said, "Oh, well, you know, of course the foreperson is going to be the man because he's the man." To which all the other ladies said, "Oh yeah, of course." And I was like, "Really?" And nobody really responded to that. The man himself had just kind of like chuckled but hadn't said anything in response. And that was kind of the end of that conversation. We moved on to other things and eventually went into the court. Heard the closing arguments, and then at some point later on took a break. And during the break I was talking to another one of the jurors, and she says to me, kind of jokingly, she goes, "Do you want to be the foreperson?" And I go, "Actually, yeah, I kind of would like to." And she said, "Seriously? I just didn't think you would. You're just so small." And I laughed about that, and I was like, "What does that have to do?" I said to her, "What does that have to do with anything?" And she said, "Well, I don't know." And then we didn't talk about it anymore. And, you know, went back into the trial, heard some more stuff. Later on, during our lunch break, I was talking to another one of the ladies who was a sweet retired lady. She had worked in the court system for a long time, and so she knew a bit about it. So I was asking her just some more details about what we were going to have to be doing today, how we were going to deliberate, what kind of guidance we would get from the judge, and that sort of thing. And she started to tell me some more about what the foreperson was doing, or was going to do. And as she was doing that, she gestured to the man when she referred to the foreperson, which, you know, was one more sort of indication that it had already been decided, apparently, that because he was the man, he was going to be the leader. So at that point, I took another opportunity. I said, I kind of would like to be the foreperson. And she said, oh, really? And just kind of laughed. And that's, she didn't say anything further about that at that point. And we eventually went back into court to hear some more stuff from the judge. So he gave us all sorts of instructions on what kind of evidence we were supposed to be considering, and the fact that the lawyers' arguments were not evidence. We're supposed to be paying attention just to the facts, things like that. And at some point, he started to talk about how we would need to choose a foreperson. And at that point, he looked over at us and said, I've noticed that you're a group of 7 women and 8 men, or 1 man, and every other time I've had 7 women and 1 man, the man has always been the foreperson. Just one more indication that automatically, because he was the man, he was going to be the leader. Bummed me out because I have these aspirations of being a foreperson. I know it's silly, but I kind of wanted to do it. I was excited about it, and didn't want to be brushed aside simply because I wasn't a man, and therefore shouldn't be a leader. I don't know. That was the implication that I got from all this, that nobody else seemed to be questioning. So a few minutes after that, the judge and the lawyers went to talk a little bit in their little side room, and one of the ladies sitting in front of me turns around and looks at the gentleman, and she goes, so you've been selected to be the foreperson. And all the ladies laugh again, and at this point he finally kind of reacted to this and said, yeah, I guess so, had this sort of tentative look on his face, didn't look totally into it, and I was like, yes, this is my opportunity. And I turned to him and I said, if you don't want to be the foreperson, I kind of would like to do it. And he said, oh, do you want to do it? And I said, yeah, I would really like to. And he said, okay, you can do it. And everybody else was like, oh, okay, she can do it. And I was like, yes, victory. Because it's 2011, and I would like to think that by this point, I wouldn't have to automatically be expected to take a back seat because I'm not a man. I was disappointed in the other ladies too, that they were all just okay with it and thought it was funny. I get it, that when you're in a group situation and somebody has to present or maybe take a leadership role like that, that people don't always want to volunteer right away. But why does it automatically have to be the man? I'm surprised. I guess this isn't the first time I've experienced things like this, but it was just so blatant, and everybody was on board. And I was glad that I got an opportunity to pioneer. I was glad that I got to break up that judge's precedent. And I would like to think that I won't be the last.